Ladies and gentlemen, please join in giving a warm welcome to the Honorable Franklin Kramer.
Thank you very much, and let me welcome you to the 30th anniversary dinner, the Global Education Dinner for the World Affairs Council. We're really delighted to have each and every one of you here. We really appreciate your being here, your interest, and your support. It's perfectly obvious to anyone who's in this room that we live in a globalized world. And globalization means both that we need to have an expanded focus. The old distinctions between security and economics or between foreign and domestic really are not so clear anymore. And we need to recognize that we live in an age of competition. There are capabilities and capacities throughout the world that used to be the province of only one part of the world. And given that, given both the expanded focus and the competition, education and global education is an absolutely critical requisite to succeeding. I spent a few days, the past week really, in Europe, mostly in London, and the conversations there were about Europe's role in an expanded world, and another set of conversations were about cyber, about the digital world. And while those conversations took place in London, they could have taken place in Africa or in South America or in the Middle East or in East Asia or in Australia. It's a set of issues for the entire world, and each of you here tonight understand that, you support it, you recognize the importance of global education, and again, we thank you for your interest and for your support. And each of the honorees represents a distinct and a critical part of that overall aspect of global education. Obviously, the United States government plays a critical role, and that's exemplified by the Secretary of Education. But the U.S. in this world has to have international partners. Again, the Ambassador of France, a complete exemplar of that international approach to education. And academia, to teach our students, is absolutely crucial. President of George Washington University, where I happen also to teach, complete accident, also an absolute exemplar. And the private sector may be playing really the biggest role. I would venture to say that probably everyone in this room used the internet today, and most of you probably use Google. I know I did. And it's a critical element to what we do. And finally, communications. Thought and activities are no good without communications, and the media and communications, again, are that fifth part of the Pentagon. I come from the Pentagon. That is so crucial in global education. And so let me, with that, thank you once more. Thank all our corporate, our foundation, our individual sponsors, and ask for Judy Woodruff to come up. She'll lead us in the program tonight, and we honor her later today with the Global Communications Award. Judy.
Thank you, Franklin Kramer. I am delighted to be here with all of you tonight. There's not much going on in the news these days, so it was really easy to get away from the NewsHour. I want to congratulate the World Affairs Council on its 30th anniversary. You look so wise to be so young. So congratulations, and we will be celebrating that throughout the evening. There's a wonderful program that's been organized for tonight, and I'm so pleased to be playing a part in bringing that program to you. The first thing I want to do is introduce Edie Frazier, who is a member of the World Affairs Council Board of Directors. She is Managing Director and the Diversity Chair of Diversified Search at Ray and Bernson, which is the largest woman-founded and woman-owned executive search firm in the country. Edie is the past president in Washington of the National Association of Women Business Owners. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Edie Frazier.
Well, should we first give a round of applause for Judy Woodruff, who gave up the NewsHour to be with the World Affairs Council? Judy, we admire you and applaud you and will do so subsequently. We also want to say that the Undersecretary of Education is with us. Martha Cantor, can we recognize you and thank you? We gather that Secretary Duncan was supposed to be in India last week to take some college presidents, but Martha Cantor, as Undersecretary, took them still and came back. And both of you who are testifying on the Hill tomorrow have incredible schedules, but your depth of leadership, Martha, is something that we all respect. No, you have to think about what Secretary Duncan and President Obama have in common, right? Well, one, we can say they've got a Chicago base. We know they both went to Harvard, right? They both played basketball and still do, but I think it was Secretary Duncan that became the all-American basketball player and took that competitive spirit to All-American to play in Australia. So if anybody should agree with global education and being global, it's Secretary Duncan still plays basketball with the president. Why this award to Secretary Duncan? It's innovation and change in education. And you see it fervently on the newspapers and everything that we discuss. It's about change in education. And that symbol is Secretary Arne Duncan. It was 14 months ago on the inaugural day itself that the secretary was confirmed by the United States Senate. And when he said that education was the most important issue and the future of our economy and an economic imperative. And he also said, as we all know, that education is a civil rights issue of this generation. So let's just look back a minute, because Secretary Duncan served for nearly 8 years as the CEO of the school system in Chicago and worked hard there to raise education to a new level. And there's all kinds of data to show what he's done and what's being measured. But I think two of our favorites have to be that he really increased the number of teachers applying for jobs threefold. If we look from 2003 and on to years, that is a tripling of the number of people that apply to be teachers. And we had to confirm this fact because it was so extraordinary. For those teachers achieving national board certification, he started with 11 in 1999, and that number went up to 1,100 in 2008, making so that's change. And his commitment to youth, you know, his father was a teacher at the University of Chicago, but it was he that tutored in the inner city schools. So we could go on, but with the World Affairs Council, we truly look at Title VI, particularly in global education and language learning, and the Fulbright Hays programs in international education. And we say to the Secretary that we are so proud of what you do, what you're driving for change, working 18 hours a day, that we of the World Affairs Council join with you in saluting you with this very special International Affairs Award, Mr. Secretary, for being our nation's change leader in education. Thank you.
Well, good evening. And Edie, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I apologize. I think my mother probably faxed that to her. So, but I'm truly, truly honored to be here tonight, and so honored that you think to give me this award. And as she said, it's been just over a year since the President and I and our team arrived here in Washington. And we look back, and it's flown by. It's been an amazing year. And we look back, it's been an extraordinary year, and we're very, very proud of what we've accomplished so far. A year ago, the schools in the United States were facing an education catastrophe. States and districts across the country were facing unprecedented budget shortfalls. And one estimate suggested that as many as 600,000 education jobs were at risk. Through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, we largely avoided that education catastrophe. And states have reported to us that through the Recovery Act, they either saved or created over 325,000 education jobs. Across the country, we've seen improvements, but we know we're quite frankly not even close to where we want to be. The President's working to rebuild the economy on a new foundation, one that provides middle-class families with the economic security they want and deserve. Education is the cornerstone of that foundation. The President and I passionately believe that we have to educate our way to a better economy. In my view, the only way to secure our common future in an interconnected, competitive global economy is through education. It is the one true path out of poverty, the great equalizer that overcomes differences in background, in culture, in privilege. In the 21st century, a quality educational system is the centerpiece of a country's economic development, and it can be the one thing that unites us as a world. Here in the United States, President Obama has made an unprecedented commitment to reforming our nation's schools. The need and the urgency that we feel today is obvious. And a few tough statistics tell the story. Today, 27% of America's young people drop out of high school. That means 1.2 million teenagers each year leaving our schools for the streets. Today, 17-year-olds are performing at the exact same levels in math and reading as they were in the early 1970s on the NAEP exam. And just 40% of our nation's young people earn a 2-year or a 4-year college degree. We don't need another study. We must stop overanalyzing. What we need is action. The President has challenged us to significantly boost our college completion rate by the end of this decade, by 2020. To meet the President's goal, we have to move from a national average of college graduation rate of 40%, which has remained stagnant for several decades, to about 60%. And that includes degrees from 2-year and 4-year universities. We want to be the first in the world again, and to get there, we cannot waste a minute. Every year counts, every class counts, every child counts. In our country, we have 95,000 schools serving elementary and secondary education students. They're run by 15,000 local school districts. Almost all of them are governed by a board of citizens who are committed to doing what's right for the children in their district and across the country. Educators and parents across the nation want support from Washington, but not our interference. They want accountability, but not oversight. They want national leadership, but not at the expense of local control. Our role here in Washington is to support education reform by encouraging high standards, bold approaches to helping struggling schools, spurring innovation, creating capacity, closing the achievement gap, reducing the dropout rate, and boosting college access. All of this must lead to more students completing college and ultimately to being able to compete with people all over the globe. We're providing that leadership by promising to invest in the best ideas that will transform our nation's schools. Last July, I joined with President Obama to kick off the Race to the Top. This competition, which was funded through the Recovery Act, with the bipartisan support of Congress, put unprecedented resources, $4.35 billion on the table to reward states that are ready to dramatically reshape America's educational system. We said from the beginning that we were going to set a very high bar in this competition, that we would only reward excellence, and that winning would require an all-hands-on-deck approach to reform. Since then, this historic program has been a catalyst for reform across the country, prompting states to think deeply about how to improve the way we prepare our students for success in a competitive 21st century economy and workplace. 40 states and the District of Columbia answered that challenge in Phase 1. With their leadership, stakeholders across America sat down, looked hard at what is and what is not working, and developed bold and creative reform plans that give us great, great hope for the future of our country's educational system. And last week, we announced that 16 applicants were advancing as finalists. Finalists, but not winners. The 16 finalists are the best applications we received in Phase 1 of Race to the Top, and every one of them has a shot at winning. But this isn't just about the money. It's about collaboration amongst all stakeholders, including administrators, parents, educators, unions, and elected officials. It's about building a shared agenda, and it's challenging ourselves to dramatically improve student learning. That's why I believe that every state that applied has already succeeded, and the biggest winners of all are our nation's students. Everyone who applied for Race to the Top is helping to chart a path forward for educational reform. And hopefully, there'll be 2 more phases to the competition, so everyone will have a chance to implement at scale their bold blueprints for change. The President has proposed $1.35 billion in next year's budget to continue Race to the Top, and we look forward to working with Congress to make this happen. Education reform is America's most important mission if we're serious about strengthening our economy. But we have to have reform in all states. Right now, we're working with both Republicans and Democrats to reauthorize the Elementary and Secondary Education Act. For those of you, and I know you all are, who are following what's happening here in Congress today, you know that Republicans and Democrats aren't working together on too many issues. But in education, we are absolutely committed to working together. Education has to be the one issue, the issue that rises above politics and ideology. We know our country's economic future depends on the success of our schools. At the federal level, we should be tight on goals with a clear, high set of standards that truly prepare young people for college and careers. But we should be loose on the means for hitting that high bar. Let local educators with flexibility have the chance to innovate and put their best ideas to work. We must be flexible and accommodating as states and districts, working with parents and nonprofits and universities and external partners, develop educational solutions. We have to be open to new ideas, to encourage innovation and build on what we see working across the country. We must have a common definition of success, focused on student achievement, high school graduation, and success and ultimately attainment in college. If we want our children to grow up able to understand the world in which we live, we must make sure our students have the education and the skills they need to become full and successful contributors to our nation's economy. In this new century and in this global economy, it is not only unacceptable to delay and defer needed reforms, it's self-destructive. We can't allow so much as one more day to go by without advancing our educational agenda. When we reauthorize the ESEA, we will set clear goals, but we will be flexible on the means for meeting them. We will focus on raising standards for all students, rewarding success in schools, districts, and states, supporting and rewarding effective teachers and great principals, turning around with real courage our nation's lowest performing schools, and helping schools design the well-rounded curriculum that all of our children need. President Obama often says that the country that out-educates us today will out-compete us tomorrow. That sentiment appeals to the American sense of competition, the desire to try and be the best and lead the world. But he also recognizes that our success must come through cooperation. Last summer, President Obama spoke in Cairo, Egypt, at the conference hosted by 2 remarkable institutions of higher education, Cairo University and Al-Azhar. He spoke about the sweeping changes brought by modernity and globalization and how we need to promote cooperation amongst people all over the world. The President said that education and innovation will be the currency of the 21st century, and he urged people of the world to expand exchange programs and increase scholarships, like the one that brought his father here to America. He also encouraged more Americans to study abroad, to invest in online learning, and to create online networks that will allow young people in Kansas to communicate instantly with their counterparts in Cairo. The President's words underline what many of us here tonight already know. We must work towards the internationalization of our schools, our colleges, and our universities so that we can infuse a global perspective into education, research, teaching, and learning. My senior staff and I have met with many ministers of education from many countries. Just in the past several months, we've met with delegations from Pakistan, Colombia, Chile, China, and India who wish to build hundreds of new community colleges and universities to spur our global economy and social prosperity. Just last week, as we heard earlier, Undersecretary Martha Cantor is just doing an extraordinary job, led a delegation of university presidents to India. Later this month, Deputy Secretary of Education Tony Miller will travel to Brazil. And we have renewed and strengthened our relationships with the education communities at UNESCO and OECD. And we're working closely with the State Department and USAID to offer help in immediate areas of crisis, like Haiti and Chile. Through these connections, we will learn from all of you. We see ways that we can transform our schools. We hope that by working across boundaries, we can continue to learn from each other. The President and I understand our place in the global economy, yet we know our students have a long, long way to go. As I mentioned, the President has set an ambitious goal for America, that by 2020, we will again lead the world in college completion. It will require all students and all Americans to have strong critical thinking skills, the ability to work effectively with people from diverse backgrounds and cultures, the ability to work in teams, the ability to communicate in more than one language, and the ability to work increasingly across borders. Ensuring that students acquire global competencies is vital to America's economic competitiveness, our national security, and our capacity to work effectively with other countries. Our students have to become global citizens with the skills and knowledge critical to confronting the myriad of global challenges of today and the future, whether they are economic, political, health-related, or environmental. We know that some people fear this globalization. They don't see the point of international trade or the merging of traditions and cultures. They fear that new technologies will make us lose control of our economic choices, our politics, and most importantly, our identities. The President and I know that globalization will help America to once again stand at the forefront of innovation and education. And we are convinced that only from such a position of strength can our nation truly advance the causes of global prosperity and welfare in our interdependent modern world. We look forward to a world where we are not divided, but we are united by our ideas, by our goals, and by our understanding of one another. These plans are absolutely ambitious. They might sound like lofty goals, but I know firsthand that they are real and they are possible. Education has been my life's work, starting on the south side of Chicago, where I grew up along with my sister and brother as a part of my mother's inner-city after-school tutoring program, where we learned, as she said, to cherish every child. Her remarkable courage and dedication have been a constant source of inspiration to me, my brother, and my sister, and we've all tried to follow in her footsteps in various ways. My values were formed at her children's center, and they're the same values and the same beliefs that motivate me today. I learned that despite poverty, despite severe neighborhood violence, despite sometimes dysfunctional homes, all children can learn. I learned that even with many different beliefs, if we can make the connection with one another here at home or across the world, give an opportunity and support, every child can learn. We cannot rest until every child has the opportunities they desperately need and deserve to fulfill their true potential. I look forward to our collective work together as we strive to achieve that goal. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's my honor to introduce our next speaker. He is Rick Knopp, J. Richard Knopp, who is an investment banker. He is senior consultant to BB&T Capital Markets, and he is a principal of JK Venture Capital. Please welcome Rick Knopp, who will introduce the recipient of our next award.
Thank you, Judy. Good evening. It is my honor to present our annual Distinguished Diplomatic Service Award to His Excellency Pierre Vimont, Ambassador of the Republic of France to the United States. Ambassador Vimont was appointed Ambassador of France to the United States by President Sarkozy on August 1, 2007. Prior to his present appointment, he was Chief of Staff to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, a position he held since 2002. He was previously Ambassador and Permanent Representative of France to the European Union from 1999 to 2002. He joined the Foreign Service in 1977. He was first posted to London, where he was the first secretary from 1978 to 1981. From 1985 to 1986, he was posted with the Institute for East-West Security in New York City. Returning to Europe, he served as the second counselor with the permanent representation of France to the European communities in Brussels, 1986 to 1990. And was subsequently Chief of Staff to the Minister Delegate for European Affairs from 1990 to 1993. He went on to serve as Director for Development and Scientific, Technical, and Education Cooperation, then for Cultural, Scientific, and Technical Relations. He was Deputy Director General of the entire Cultural, Scientific, and Technical Relations Department from 1997 to 1999. He holds a degree in law and is a graduate of the Institute of Political Studies and the National School of Administration. We are presenting this award to Ambassador Vimont because of his leadership in supporting more than 1,000 cultural events throughout the U.S. each year, including programs with many major universities such as MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, University of Chicago, and Georgia Tech, and shortly George Washington University. In addition, France is the destination for study by the largest percentage of U.S. studies. And you know, our theme tonight is You Never Stop Learning. And the dean of my law school, George Washington University, is out here in the audience. And we actually, the leadership of the law school, including yours truly, is going to Paris in May to meet with the French legal community. So even at my age, you never stop learning, and indeed, even me as a student, we're still going to France. The ambassador recognizes the need to educate a generation of global citizens and the vital importance for diplomats to have wider understanding of global issues than in generations past. Today, says Pierre Vimont, the diplomats' horizons have to be much wider. Quote, you have to know about financial markets, climate change, terrorism, defense, and commerce. You are working in a global environment in which issues and different decisions on those issues are all interconnected. Mr. Ambassador, the World Affairs Council of Washington, D.C. is pleased to award you the Distinguished Diplomatic Service Award.
Merci. Don't worry, I will not speak in French, but if you wish, I could try. I really wanted to thank the World Affairs Council for this wonderful award that has been bestowed upon me. I'm not sure that I deserve it. I mean, I understand there are 30 of my colleagues, ambassadors who are here in the room, and I can only say that each and every one of them deserves this tribute as much as me, and I would like just to pay tribute to all of them because I know that they're doing also a fantastic job. I'm not that sure that I deserve it either because I have a wonderful staff in the French embassy, and in fact they are the ones who are doing all the work. When you are an ambassador, you are in this very privileged position that all the papers come in and you just have to read them. Everything is done by the others. So I would really like to pay tribute to all of them. And if I... And if I accept this award, is really for them, all of them. I would also like to say one word about the World Affairs Council, and I'm sure my colleagues here would agree with me. As we all travel around this great country of yours, and we meet representatives from this extraordinary network that the World Affairs Council represents, it's always very impressive to go into those meetings and to speak with the people who are there, to listen to the questions that are being asked, how good they are, how well informed those people are. And I must say, I would like to recognize here the extraordinary work that the World Affairs Council is doing for global education and international affairs, really. Congratulations on this. On this 30th anniversary, if I understand well. And my last observation would be to just underline what has been said already by Secretary Duncan with much more eloquence than I could ever manage to have about the kind of world we're living all today in, this global community that we are talking about all the time, and which has so many implications for the work that we're doing, each one of us in our different fields of competence. I think for us diplomats, and I hope that my colleagues will agree with me, we're facing, I think, major challenges because we have to change our ways of working. We have to become much more aware of what's going on in the world today and to look at all the consequences and the implications that each one of these challenges has today on the work we're doing. And therefore, the education that is being promoted through the World Affairs Council, what we try to do ourselves in each and every one of our embassies in trying to help promoting that education, I think all this is very useful to make us all understand that today when a crisis erupts somewhere in Africa, when we're facing some financial crisis starting maybe here in your country but developing all around the world, when we're talking about the fight against terrorism, when we're talking about climate change, when we are looking at the whole question of development assistance, we are today facing an issue or issues that can only be solved by all of us together. And therefore, we have to work much closely together. And I think this is very important because I feel that in each and every one of our countries today, our population, our citizens, are becoming more and more afraid and to some extent angry about the fact that their leadership, their intelligentsia, as we say in Europe, haven't got the answers today to many of the challenges we're facing. And we have a special responsibility as being the people in charge of our administration, of our public governments. We have a special responsibility there to bring the right answers to our citizens and to try altogether to move ahead and to find the right path to solve all those challenges we're facing. And I think that in its own style, this is exactly what the World Affairs Council is trying to do. So I would like once again to thank you all for just listening to me for those few minutes, and wish you all a very pleasant evening. And thank you again for this award that I'm not sure I deserve, but anyway, I'll take it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We can assure you, you do deserve this award. There's no doubt about it. Thank you very much. Next, to present our next award, I want to call up Bob Pence. He's a member of the Board of Directors of the World Affairs Council. He's also principal at Pence Friedel Developers, a major real estate development company. He's currently developing a mega project, I'm told, at Tyson's Corner here nearby in Northern Virginia. Bob holds a JD and an MA degree, both from American University, a Master's of Philosophy from Yale, where he's now working on completing a PhD dissertation in Italian art and literature. He and his wife, Susie, are active on the International Committee of the Kennedy Center and the Board of the National Symphony Orchestra, and he and Susie are national champions of multiple causes for disabled service veterans and members of the U.S. military. So please join me in welcoming Bob Pence.
I second that statement, Mr. Ambassador. You deserve the award. And the winner of the 2010 World Affairs Council Educator of the Year Award is Dr. Stephen Knapp. That's what it is. Where it is here. When it is now. Why takes just a... That wasn't that funny. The why takes a little bit longer. The good president, good evening, and congratulations. President Knapp has a long and distinguished career in academia. I know we've heard about Harvard, but I'm very proud to say he did his undergraduate years at a small institution in New Haven. Go Bulldogs. He has an MA and a PhD. He spent years at Johns Hopkins and I believe 16 years at the University of California in Berkeley. I was particularly intrigued in doing a little reading tonight in preparation, just a little bit, that on May the 17th of last year at the GW commencement on the Mall, and I want to thank you, Mr. President, for scheduling that on my birthday. He spoke very eloquently, and I want to quote this because I don't want to miss this. He accentuated the increasing importance of the institution's preeminence in research and addressing the affordability of higher education and strengthening connections with its lifelong and worldwide community of alumni. He spoke of their students' educational journey and students' deep commitment to being active and engaged citizens of the world. I thought it was particularly appropriate that commencement took place on the Mall in Washington, D.C. Our Mall, with all of its wonderful memorials to the history of this country, evidences two things. One, our great admiration for the institutions in this country and the people that have gone before us. But it also evidences something else, and that is this, that at the time those memorials were built, the constructors, the financiers, et cetera, believed that there was something worthwhile that had been done that was worth preserving for posterity. A little while ago, before we came into the room tonight, Dr. Knapp mentioned Charles Singleton. And since I'm duty-bound to always mention Dante and Cicero during a little talk like this, it was Charles Singleton who wrote one of the best essays ever on Dante, called The Vistas in Retrospect. And his premise was very simple, that it's only much after the fact that as we look back along the historical lifeline of our lives, bad sentence, repeats the same word twice, that we understand the full significance of events as they then took place. I'm harking back to, and I know your interest, love for literature, to a quote from Henry Brooks Adams, an American historian, pardon, it was from Harvard, who said, "A teacher affects eternity. He can never tell when his influence stops." In a similar vein, Sophocles said, it would be, in short, be nice if man could all learn by instinct alone. But because we're all led astray or tempted to be led astray, it's more reasonable to follow the teachings of eminent teachers. And in that regard, here's Cicero, who did say that one may not depend, and one should not depend on one teacher or one book alone, for the simple reason that individual teachers and books are time-bound. They deny the continuity of life and the growth of the intellect. And so therefore we need a great variety of teachers. And as we move forward in life, enter the educator. Dr. Knapp had a distinguished career as a teacher. In my 60s, I've just come to understand how very difficult that is if it's taken seriously. But he's now in another phase of his life. And it's probably the most challenging, and I would surmise the most rewarding. And that is, how does one assemble a group of educators, of teachers, so that the students may have the widest possible, most significant, involved, and rewarding, both individually and to society. That is the function of an educator, such as we award our Educator of the Year award to Dr. Stephen Knapp. Congratulations, sir.
Bob, Mr. Pence, that introduction was so eloquent and learned that I can only say, echoing the words of your favorite author, I abandon all hope of matching it. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, distinguished members of the diplomatic corps, on behalf of the trustees, faculty, students, and staff of the George Washington University, I am deeply grateful to the World Affairs Council of Washington, D.C. for this extraordinary act of recognition. All of us at George Washington are especially honored to receive this award alongside such distinguished fellow honorees, and also on the 30th anniversary of this great institution, the World Affairs Council. I'm proud and humbled to say that our university, now in its 188th year, is the only one that bears the full name of this nation's first president. General Washington dreamed of an institution that would bring students together from around the country so they could overcome their regional prejudices and forge a new identity as citizens of the nation as a whole. Today we are forging citizen leaders not just of this nation but of the world, and that means recruiting students not just from all 50 of the United States but from 130 countries. Our students become truly global citizens as they learn from each other what it means to understand, to respect, and to enjoy the contributions of all cultures that compose the rich fabric of the world they share. Such exposure is an essential part of what prepares them to address the world's most salient issues. This morning, in fact, we had a powerful reminder of what it means to be a global university at the heart of this nation's capital. We had the privilege of hosting Haitian First Lady Elizabeth Préval, a George Washington alumna, who returned to our campus to give a moving speech on the desperate need to rebuild her country's devastated schools. And in fact, I wear the Haitian United States friendship pin as a result of that event early this morning. Within hours of the tragic earthquake, I was in contact with Madame Preval, not only to voice our sympathy, but to receive her guidance on how U.S. universities might best respond to her country's most pressing needs. And actually had an opportunity to talk to Secretary Duncan about what universities are doing and could do in greater partnership with his department in responding to this terrible pressing need in Haiti, where in order to rebuild the country, it's essential that students be able to return to school so that their parents can undertake the desperately important work of recovery. Our mission of developing global citizens is certainly one we share with this Council, and we have other ties as well. I'm especially glad to note that the chair of the Council's International Affairs Committee, you heard from him earlier, Rick Knopp, is a George Washington alumnus and a member of our law school's board of advisors and very engaged, and he and his wife Leslie actually were among the very first people to greet us and to welcome my wife Diane and me to the George Washington family when we first arrived, so we're very glad to have that connection. It's great to see them both here with us tonight, this evening. George Washington Professor of Geography and International Affairs, Marie Price, also here this evening, has worked with her students to advise the World Affairs Council of America on the Academic World Quest competition that will be held in Washington later this spring. Our Elliott School of International Affairs will host a panel discussion for the student participants in that competition. And finally, I'm pleased to note that the Council regularly employs our students as program interns. Together, George Washington and the World Affairs Council play a key role in shaping awareness of global challenges and informing the conversation about how to meet them. Thanks again for bestowing this great honor upon the George Washington University. It's one we will cherish and from which we will draw inspiration and encouragement for years to come. Thank you very much.
So I ask you to turn your attention this way because I'm going to be introducing the person who will present the next award. His name, the presenter's name, is John Duff. John is a vice chairman of the Council's Board of Directors, and he is chair of the Global Education Committee. He is co-founder of Duff, Ackerman Goodrich, a venture capital firm with offices in Washington and in San Francisco. He's a graduate of Yale Law School and active in many causes to advance global education. Please welcome John Duff. Oh, there you are. Hi.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your wonderful support of our education efforts. I can tell you that your support is helping us to close the gap. And that gap is what we perceive to be what high school students should understand about the world they're about to enter and what they do learn. It's a big gap. And we have programs trying to address that. The 4 T's: teachers, teens, talkers, and travelers. And teachers is a key, obviously. We focus on professional development of teachers. You will not be surprised that that history book you had X years ago and you didn't get to the last 30 pages, the same thing applies now. The last 30 pages, nobody gets to. And of course, that's our sweet spot. That's current affairs. And we help in that regard. Teens are the students themselves. We do forums with them. We did one in the fall where we had 200 plus kids representing all the countries in the world that went to Copenhagen or were going to be in Copenhagen, and they were as passionate about their positions as the Copenhagenites were, and it was a great experience. Talkers, we learned that having inspirational speakers come into the classrooms really can affect kids' lives, and so we've really geared that program up. And then travelers, a lot of kids can't get out of the country, and we try to help a handful every summer. It's a small program, but it has a big ripple effect. And one of the things that we are blessed with, thanks to our honoree, that helps us leverage the effect of all these programs is this wonderful thing called the internet. And who could have imagined it 20 years ago, and who can imagine what it's going to look like 20 years from now? None of us can, not even our honoree, I think. But it's just beyond description to think of the power of that tool. And we're starting to take more and more advantage of it as we try to spread our programs beyond just their immediate impact. And when you think of the internet, you think of a number of companies, but there's one that just pops to mind, obviously. And that company introduced to me and probably most of Americans the word that stands for a 1 followed by 100 zeros, a Google. And that gives you a sense of the vision, or at least the attempted vision of the company. And I think we'd all agree that their execution of that vision matches the vision. I mean, you can pick your favorite. Mine is Google Earth. Yours may be Google Translation. If you're a teacher, it might be a professional development service that Google has. It's endless. And it's hard to imagine that it all comes out of this wonderful, great company. Why is it so great? Well, it's America, maybe, among other things. But it's also because it hires the best people on the face of the globe. And it doesn't stop at an A level. It goes for the A+ level. So I think they would all say at headquarters, their probably premier hire was about 5 years ago when they got our honoree, Dr. Vinton Cerf. And they said, we'd like to make you chief internet evangelist. And my sources tell me he said, I was thinking of Archduke as a better title. And they paused, the founders and Eric Schmidt paused and said, well, consider Archduke Ferdinand for a minute. He said, chief internet evangelist it is. The other thing he did, apparently the first day he appeared on campus, he's gotten tons of awards. And some of those awards are honorary degrees that carry with it a robe. So as an evangelist, he appeared on the Google campus in his academic robe, which freaked out anybody under 30, which is 99% of the population. But anyhow, talking about Dr. Cerf and reviewing what he's done is really like a review of the internet. It's inseparable. It's kind of it is remarkable that one human being, with the help of, I think, another good partner of his, has produced what he's produced. He got help at Stanford, UCLA, and IBM. He worked on ARPANET, which was an early connector of networks. And then he and Robert Kahn put together TCP/IP, which is basically what creates and makes the internet work. And then he went into the commercial world. He went to MCI. And what did he do there? He created the first commercial email using the internet in the history of the world. So it's just a history of innovative, brilliant ideas, one after another. And he's gotten all kinds of honorary degrees, robes. I counted 20, and then I stopped counting. The ones that particularly stand out to me are, besides the fact that People magazine in 2005 described him as one of the 25 most intriguing men in the face of the world, he also got from President Clinton the National Medal of Technology, and then a few years later he got from President Bush the Presidential Medal of Freedom with his partner Robert Kahn. And those are the highest awards you can get in this country. So I think the honor tonight is really ours as the World Affairs Council to be in a position to present somebody like Dr. Cerf with this Global Education Award. And if we can't use the tool that he's created for us to close the gap, shame on us. Thank you, Dr. Cerf.
Well, this is truly a wonderful honor. And I must tell you, my wife and I have lived here for 34 years, and we live for events like this, not because of honors and the like, which we're deeply grateful for at Google, but because of the people that we meet. And you represent the kind of mix of wonderful, passionate, interested, politically active people that have flavored our lives here for the last 3.5 decades. So it's really a true pleasure to be here sharing this room with you tonight. I'd like to wish the World Affairs Council a happy 30th birthday, and I do hope I hope and trust that it will be here another 30 years from now. It's no mean feat for an organization like this to survive and thrive over that long period of time in this environment here in Washington. Some people have said that education is what you have after you've forgotten everything you learned. And in some very deep way, that's actually quite correct, because for many of us, that which we have learned is not necessarily relevant anymore. It's particularly true in the technical fields. The moment you graduate, you're almost out of date. And so this underscores the importance of continuing education. I don't think that there's anyone in this room that would disagree that the way that you stay lively and connected is to continue your education. I noticed that on the sign here we talk about where learning happens. I'd like to take a small hint from that phrase and argue that we might ignore the word teach for just a moment, because teach is not the outcome that we're looking for. It's learn that is the outcome we're looking for. How do people learn? How can we help them learn? How can we measure how well they have learned? And so I'm very happy to see this phrase on the billboard here, because it's learning that we are interested in making sure people achieve. Something else which Google cares a great deal about is information. Sometimes you will hear the term information is power. I don't think that that really gets at the heart of information. It's information sharing that's power. We've seen it in the internet and the World Wide Web, where people voluntarily put information on the net, not for pecuniary gain, but for the sheer joy of knowing that what they know is useful to someone else and that they can share it with them freely. And so this open internet environment, this open World Wide Web, is absolutely essential to the sharing of information. Google's motto is to organize the world's information and make it accessible and useful. And I can't think of a more important goal in the context of education. I must say that I accept this award on behalf of the 20,000 people that work now at Google. It's pretty amazing. We're a very young company. We started in 1998. We're just about 12 years old. We started with 2 people. Now we're 20,000 people and growing. And that's a fairly rapid growth pace. If you can imagine what it's like to manage a company growing at that pace, it's just incredible. But those 20,000 employees are really dedicated to that motto. So we are collectively deeply honored, and we are strongly encouraged by the World Affairs Council's passion and recognition of the need and importance of education, and perhaps even more important, something that's been mentioned several times tonight, the importance of critical thinking. And I want to close with observing something that I feel very, very strongly about. The one thing that we can leave our children with that will prepare them for the rest of their lives is to learn to think critically about the information that they get. They get a lot of information from the internet and from newspapers and magazines and television programs, their friends and their parents. Not all of that information is necessarily credible or correct. Nothing that we can do will prepare them better for life than to teach them to think critically about the information that they get and to select the information that they're going to accept as credible and to reject the information that isn't. So thank you again on behalf of Google. This is really a great honor, and we do deeply appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Tony Cully Foster, Chairman of the Communications Committee of the World Affairs Council of Washington, D.C. Mr. Cully Foster is the founder and president of CFCO International, the leading representative of UK companies in Washington, D.C. He is a member of the National Press Club, professor of communications at the University of Ulster in Ireland, and member of the School of Business and Entrepreneurship at the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. Mr. Cully Foster is also a chairman of the North Ireland U.S. Chamber of Commerce and member of Who's Who in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please join in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Tony Cully Foster.
The facts and the truth are the basic tenets of life and also the profession of communications. I'm very pleased tonight that our final award will go to a person of iconic stature in the world of professional broadcast journalism. It's difficult to believe that this young person you saw on the stage tonight as the MC of our program, Judy Woodruff, has been covering presidential elections in the United States since 1976. I know the child labor laws weren't what they should have been, but Dr. Cerf made a very important point. It's about learning. Knowledge is not power. The use of knowledge is power. At the World Affairs Council for 30 years, we've been fortunate to have a man who, like myself, has a speech impediment that's identified as being Irish. For 30 years, this man has dedicated his life to building the World Affairs Council of Washington, D.C., to an organization that endures and is at a platform of incredible growth. So, Judy, there's only one thing better than an Irishman presenting you with an award. That is if two Irishmen present you with an award. So I'm going to ask my friend and colleague, the founding chairman of the World Affairs Council for DC, if he'd be kind enough to join me at the podium. And ladies and gentlemen, please stand and recognize the founder of the World Affairs Council DC, Mr. Pat Gross.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. And I want to say, I want to add my words of thanks to Judy for the great job she's done since 1976 and before, and especially for tonight. And if you'd come up, we'd like to present the award to you.
Thank you very much. I am deeply honored. What a wonderful award. And especially honored because I want to make it clear that I truly am the tip of the iceberg at the organization where I work, and that is the PBS NewsHour. Because there are so many people there who are dedicated and work day in and day out to making sure that we get the story of what is going on in the world, not just in our country, but around the world, on the air every night, accurately, fairly, and in context. And I'm just going to name a couple. Both my on-air colleagues, including Margaret Warner, who, as we speak, is on her way to Yemen. And Margaret has as I'm sure so many of you know, has reported from Afghanistan, from Turkey, from Pakistan, and so many other important parts of the world where we do pay close attention to what's happening. My colleague Ray Suarez, who just in the last few days returned from Peru, where he was reporting on a global health project. And before that, he spent almost 2 weeks in Haiti, reporting on the aftermath of the terrible earthquake there. And so many others behind the camera who you don't see. You may catch a glimpse of their name at the end of the program. But at a time when other news organizations across the board, and many because they had no choice because of the economy and the fate of the news business these days, so many other organizations have had to retrench in their coverage of foreign news. The NewsHour has never pulled back in our commitment, even in a time of tight budgets, which all of us are experiencing. We have tried to find ways to be creative when we've had to be, to stretch the dollars that we have to cover the stories that we believe are important. Just tonight, for example, our top 3 stories on the NewsHour, I wrote this down before I left, were Afghanistan, Israel and the West Bank, and Somalia. And then later in the program, we had an extended piece on the program, that, in fact, from Ray Suarez from Haiti. And this is just a typical newscast. But to make a larger point tonight, we are committed to informing our audience, the American people, about what's going on in this country and what's going on around the world. As problems grow more complicated, as the challenges become harder to understand and become more subject to misunderstanding and even to distortion, the strongest defense, we believe, is knowledge, facts and information. That is what we are all about, and that's why I am so honored to be with you tonight, to be part of this organization, the World Affairs Council, as you honor excellence in education. Thank you very much for this wonderful award.
Hi, I'm Heidi Shoup. I'm president of the World Affairs Council, and I sure hope you've all had a good time tonight, because I have. Before we conclude, I want to once again thank everyone for their presence here this evening and for helping the World Affairs Council of Washington, D.C. celebrate our 30th anniversary. We want to thank Secretary Arne Duncan for honoring us with his keynote address. I'd like to thank our honorees for their presence with us tonight and for their thoughtful remarks. His Excellency Pierre Vimont of France, President Stephen Knapp of George Washington University, Dr. Vinton Cerf of Google, and of course Judy. Thank you, Judy, for guiding us so beautifully through this evening. And of course, thank you to all our corporate and individual donors who support the mission of the World Affairs Council and our efforts to engage and educate all Americans, but especially young Americans, about the crucial issues of our increasingly interconnected world, a world in which they will live and compete, and into which they must contribute. A big thank you goes to our terrific staff for all their hard work in preparing an evening like this. Amanda Stamp, our Global Education Director, and Josh Silva, our International Programs Director, are here, and an extraordinary group of university and high school students join us, and I want to thank them for their efforts tonight. Let's give them a round of applause. Amanda and Josh, I don't know where Josh is. He's in here too, okay. If you bid on the wonderful London trip, please check at the table on your way out in the lobby tonight to see if you're the winning bidder. We much appreciate the support of Omega World Travel in order to be able to offer this great trip. And for those of you who wish to take home a globe or to donate a globe to a classroom in the District of Columbia Public School System, there is a table outside, just outside these doors in the lobby as you leave, and our staff members are waiting there to assist you. Once again, on behalf of the Board of Directors and the members and the staff of the World Affairs Council, thank you for sharing this special 30th anniversary with us. I hope you will continue to support the World Affairs Council programs, and I look forward to seeing you all here again next year. Good night.